So we're going to do something a little out of the box today. We're going to make a 14 by 30 plenum with a filter in it, but we're not going to use any fasteners to put the filter in, not even a spot weld. This is a trick I've been using for 30 years. I'm going to show it to you today. You'll also be able to use that filter rack if you go to a job and you're reusing a plenum that's already on the side of the furnace. You can put it back on with these racks in it if the flange is bent the right way. There's another method to do it if they're not. I'll show you that later. So 14 by 30, we're going to make this a 1/4 inch bigger. We're going to make it 14 1/4 by 30. It's going to be 17 inches long. When you guys cut metal in the shop, if you need something that's a certain distance against a wall or something, if you could save something out of the metal, don't always try and go 24, 48, 36. Try and go 35, 47, 23, because this way you could get both halves out of the length of the sheet. So always think about that when you're fabricating something or when you're taking measurements on the job of how you could save metal if you could pull an inch out instead of picking even numbers all the time. Because all sheets are 48, 36. And if you could pull an inch out of something so that the guy in the shop doesn't have to cut the sheet the other way, it's really helpful. So I've already cut the blanks out to save time. Head cap, 14 1/4 by 30, is going to be 16 1/4 by 32. Take an eighth out of that, like I said in the last video, just so it fits. So it'll be 16 1/8 by 31 7/8. So with that, we'll get started. As I've always told you before, smallest side closest to the Pittsburgh. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mark this up. I've already pre-marked them to save time, but just for instructional purposes, inch for the two Pittsburgh. The next thing you're going to do is do your quarters down the other end. Then you're going to go to 2 1/4 on your marking gauge. So 2 1/4. You only got to do it on the 14 side if you're putting the filter in the 14 side. Some people prefer to put them in the top. If you do want to put them in from the top because you're doing a 90 plus furnace or something where you have hoses or condensate drains in the way, you can do that. Just remember to make whatever the top is, if it's a 30, a 25, just add a 1/4 to it when you fabricate it. So again, first mark 2 1/4 on the 14 side. On your back side half, you're going to do another 2 1/4 where the 1/4 inch end is. Then we're going to come back and we're going to do 1 3/4. 1 3/4. Then we're going to go back to an inch again. Try and make yourself more efficient with your marking gauge when you have things set in a certain place. Inch on the bottom. And I apologize for the lighting, guys. I've been struggling with it for days. The camera picks up the glare in the metal and it thinks it's doing something else, so I've been playing around with it. So that's that. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to mark our 14 1/4 for our opening. Add the Pittsburgh, so it's going to be 15 1/4. The next thing we're going to do there is where we put that line, we're just going to make a small line about a 1/4 inch back from the 15 1/4, so you'll do that at 15. Same thing here, 15 1/4. Work around the camera. 15 1/4. You don't have to mark it all the way through, but I'm getting old and blind. All right, so that's all your marks on there. So back to the first one you did. You don't need to scribe the 1 3/4 inches on that one. So on here, you're going to go to the 15 line, but not all the way up. You're only going to come up to that 1 3/4 inch line. Okay. Put that at a 45. Take out 1/4 on your 1 inch. Now you're going to cut down your 1 3/4 inch line. And you're going to do another 45-degree notch to the 1 inch, to the 2. Keep everybody in focus here. Then we're going to go down and do our 1/4. 1. Come to the head. Half. Half to the 1/4. That's our first piece. We're going to do cross break, 1/4 by 1, inside bend, hem, inside bend by half. Cross breaking, guys, generally anything over 12 you should be cross breaking it. Okay, this side's pretty easy. You're going to do just a 1 inch at the bottom, 1 by 1 notch, 1 inch straight notch, 1 by 1/4 notch, half by 1/4 notch, half by half, half by inch. Okay? Focus. Yes. All right. So hem, 1/4 inch bend, bend there, cross break, cross break. So that's our 2 halves for that. Our head cap. I got no nails here. Okay, I'm going to do 1 inch notches on this. You don't always have to notch these heads at 90 degrees. For me, it just comes out neater. Plus I have the box and handbrake to do it. You could do them on a 45 just to get away with them. If you're gonna wrap it, nobody's gonna see it anyways. That's our head. Cross brake. Just write head on there. Somebody doesn't know what they're doing with that, then oh well. The tracks are 4 3/4. Sometimes you can cut them a little shy. But it's 4 3/4 by whatever your track is going to be. This is 30. I cut them a little light. I cut them 29 3/4. You'll see that I use decimal equivalents on everything. To me, it's just easier to do the math that way. I can still add fractions, but I worked in a precision shop and we used all decimal equivalents for stuff we did. Just adapted to my brain that way. So that's the layout on that. I'm going to run these through the Pittsburgh real quick, and then I'm going to set up over at the brake, and I will see you over there. So I did leave something out. You got to put a notch on the 1/4 inch end on the back side of the plenum at the 2 1/4 line. I forgot to put that in there when we were filming. So, as usual, cross brake to your notches. This is pretty much just being bent up like a normal plenum. There's nothing fancy about the back half. So you need some grease. Okay, so very important step. You have to fold your hems in on this side. You cannot flop them from the outside. They have to be bent to the inside for the flanges. And again, we just take the metal right to the edge of the leaf of the brake because this one's 1/2 inch. Light squeeze, don't go crazy. A little while later. Get your flange out now. Right to the edge of the brake. Don't squeeze your Pittsburgh in the right side. "90 degrees. We're going to do our 1/4. You could do this from the other side of the brake if you want to, but I've been doing this long enough to know. And this will be our last bend. That. And don't forget about that notch in the end. Okay, now just like the other one. And like I was saying yesterday, squeeze your Pittsburghs while you got them in the brake at the ends where your connections are so that you don't have to flatten them out later. And we're just cross braking. I should start making these videos like Bob Ross videos. And put a happy little bend in here. I could grow a beard and get a fro. Again, put cross brake there. And one more happy little bend there. Okay, now here's where it becomes fun because we have to make that hole. So you're only going to have the flange with a 30-inch side here because you have that filter access there. So again, we're going out to the front of the brake. Again, we have to bend these to the inside for a reason. Light squeeze. We're going to bend our flange out now. In different places, use different flanges depending on where you're working. Sometimes in commercial stuff, they like to see a 3/4 flange. Some places may want an inch. But residential machines, you usually only have about a 1/2 inch to the edge of the furnace or the air handler, so. Okay, now we're going to line this up. Lock this down and we're going to get a mallet. This is on that 2 1/4 line that you scribed earlier. Don't use a hammer on your brake. Use a mallet. Okay, now we're going to bend the 1/4. And just so you guys know, if you see me making this video is whatever, 20 minutes long, I'm taking my time doing this. I could probably, in all reality, knock this fittings out start to finish in 20 minutes. All right, so our last line. And again, because we cut this on a 45, we're going to be able to go 90 because we've got 135 degrees on the brake. You go 90 degrees out. Up. Now, what we have is, we have a door for our filter. So, you're going to take a 4 3/4 inch piece of metal, whatever length you want, depending on what filters you need. You're going to scribe a line at 2 1/2. You're going to scribe a line at 1 1/2. You're going to scribe a line at 1. Your first bend is going to be the 2 1/2. Your second bend is going to be the 1.5. You're going to do a squeeze. Your last bend is going to be 1 inch. That's going to leave you with 1.25 inch channel. This is the profile that you'll end up with. All right, so we're going to bend up the cap. Again, we did 14.25 by 30. So our cutout size is 16.125 by 31 7/8. And you'll hear me reiterate stuff all the time. Always subtract 1/8 of an inch out of your head caps so that they fit in. Okay, so cross break. That was a little light. My uncle, one of the people who taught me, when he did return air stuff, he always inverted his cross brakes. So he cross braked into the inside. So you're doing 1/2 inch over on all sides. Again, flush with the front of the brake because the front of the brake is 1/2 inch. Not all brakes are that way. Somebody may have taken the leaf out. Some brakes you'll see they'll have a piece of angle iron on the front for bending heavier metals. Don't crush these too hard. Again, 1/2 inch over all the way around. Again, because it's 1/2 inch, you're going to go flush with the front. 90 degrees. Now you can get 3 sides without going to the box and pan brake. Or you can just cut your corners at 45 degrees if you want. Nobody's gonna see it anyways. I could have done that the other way. I went backwards. But again, you have this notch on the side of the brake that buys you a lot of room to do different things. So I'm gonna run this over to the box and pan brake, and we'll see you back at the assembly bench. So that's our bend on our box and pan brake. So the box and pan brake allows you to put different settings in with the fingers. So if you have to bend a pan or a box or a corner that you can't have binding into the top of the brake, that's what it's for. So hence the name box and pan brake. There is some different ones out there now. There is a magnetic one that holds it down magnetically. So you actually don't even need the fingers. I think Bailey makes it. It's pretty unique. but you can't use it on copper and stuff like that. So any non-ferrous metals, it's really not that good. We will see you over at the assembly bench. Okay, so now you see the opening. You see why we bent the flanges over this way. And we have our two tabs here. That profile we bent up on the brake with the track, you're going to put it above the half. And you're going to slide it inside of that flange. You are going to take a pair of snap locks. You want the button on the opposite side, the side facing the unit. Lock that in there. Then take a pair of hand seamers or a pair of pliers. Channel lock, something to get it started. You're going to tuck that in. Hand seamers. Lock it down. Same goes for this side. You're going to lock it under the half. You're going to get it in the track. Button locks. The button facing the unit. Odd angle there. Like that. Same as before. Get that bent in. And start it over. And finish it off. So that's how we do that. So keep this trick in your back pocket with the tracks. If you go to do a change out somewhere and there's an existing plenum on there that you're reusing that doesn't have a filter in it, you can open these flanges up on that unit and do the same thing and retrofit these in. All you got to do is cut a door in the front, slide the tracks in, lock them in. Now, sometimes you'll find that whoever made that sheet metal bent this flange the other way, but you can still do this. You can still put these on, start some screws in it just to get a dimple in it to hold them on there. Push it right to the side of the unit and drive the screws right through it. If you have a raw edge here, or if you could bend that plenum in, that's great. You really should have a door on here. I've been just making some small doors. I've been putting a piece of slip on and sliding the door in with a 1/2-inch flange or 2 screws, because a lot of times you don't have the spacing here to pull this filter back and do the track, and then you're spot welding and you're doing all sorts of other things. So so we got our cap made. We're going to be using the button locks again. So always lock down the first corner. And you may have to open those up with a scratch hole or a screwdriver sometimes if you crush them too hard. As you can see, because we shrunk that in the measurement, it goes right in. This doesn't always go as planned. So that is why we shrink it 1/8 of an inch. Because if you don't, you're gonna fight that thing all day. There's our cap. You can squeeze these down with a hand seamer if you want, get them a little neater. Sometimes I'll stick them in the box and pan brake and crush them down. And there you have it. Slide your filter in there, good to go. You're gonna work in a condo where space is really tight and you can't get a media filter in, and you're still gonna be stuck with this situation where you have the filter right up against the unit. It works good. So thanks for stopping by. Please like and subscribe. Hope to see you back. Have a great day.